YouTube link in the morning. So we'll just give it a minute or two for this to fill up, and then we'll get going.
All right, wonderful. Well, all clear on my end. We're live on YouTube, being that Mattvnp has been so gracious as to kind of spearhead this entire event. I will let him do the honors of introducing everything. Shout out to everybody watching on YouTube, and if you're watching the replay down the road, big shout out to you as well. Glad everybody is here. We got good showing of people already in the Twitter Spaces. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining, ladies and gents. I appreciate it's a bit late in the evening for anyone London and European based, and probably a bit early in the day for some of our West Coast friends, but thank you for being here. I guess the point of tonight's call really is to start us on a new communication roadmap to run alongside the project roadmap that we'll talk to later. I think one of the things that, as a holder of the project, I was quite vocally critical of historically was the failure to communicate in a timely and transparent fashion, whether it was what successes were going on with the project, but equally as importantly, any failures and why those things were failing, and what sort of revised timescales we'd be working to on each of the bits and pieces that we were all moaning about. So for my sins, I was, as I say, a vocal critic of that, and the best way to respond in a situation where you're invested and you feel like things aren't being handled properly is to take it upon yourself to try and fix things. So that's what I'm doing. My background, as I've touched on briefly in the Discord, is that I'm a financial markets guy. I spent a couple of decades in the city building front office teams, commercial teams for brokerages and trading houses, and I exited that role via an IPO that took place in 2016. All of my shares vested in 2020, and since then I have been a degen in the NFT and Web3 space, working with a couple of friends via a fund to invest in startup projects. And it was through that venture that I stumbled across Incognito, dipped my toe in the water, and a few months later I was holding 40 of the things and wondering how we could work to improve. So I introduced myself to Jack and Dynasty, as our American friends would say, in that capacity. And the conversation went from there about how I could perhaps contribute to an enhanced roadmap and how we would communicate that to the community, and how we could improve upon things that were done in 2021 moving into 2022. Everyone knows who Jack is. I'm sure he's been with the project since the beginning and is an invaluable member of the team who's helped to deliver many of the things that were slow to come to hand without him. But just for the purpose of people that haven't heard him speak before, Jack, is it worth you just saying hello and just giving a brief overview of your involvement?
Absolutely. Thank you. By the way, great intro. Thank you very much. Fantastic to have somebody of your caliber, of course, on the team. And I think everybody in the community has recognized, the seriousness of Matt's involvement here. So hats off to Matt. Thank you for doing some sweeping lately of the floor. Matt's involvement has, of course, been invaluable as of late, and it's very exciting to have somebody, I guess, this motivated to, of course, help us sculpt, the future, the roadmap. 2022 lies just ahead, guys, so it's very, very nice to have him here. As for me, you know me. I have been here for a while, guys. I have, of course, hosted some of these Twitter Spaces a bit in the past as well. Of course, it's fallen off in recent weeks, and here we are kind of rejuvenating this entire process. Of course, transparency and communication is everything, something I really prided myself in trying to get across here. I'm glad that this is straightening that out. As for me, guys, I'm usually the one that you reach out to if you need anything at all with the project, and I'm usually quite responsive. So you know me, guys. I'm a jack, I guess, of all trades, and I'm usually looking after a lot of the details around here. I don't want to go on too long. I'm sure you guys know I have my finger in a lot of pies at the project here. Not much more to add. Back to Matt.
Thank you, sir. So before we get on to future plans, I think it's probably worth just addressing a few outstanding concerns from the quarter just gone, a few items that are still awaiting delivery, updating on where they are. The nice thing is that I've obviously joined the team in an official capacity in the past week or so. So anything that's outstanding, I can quite happily blame on Jack, who in turn can blame them on Dynasty. And then when it comes to the sexy stuff of making promises about what's going to happen next, I can take all of the credit and say that Jack had nothing to do with it. So let's get on with that. So the first point is there's various people who have contacted me via DM and also in the Discord in general, mentioning that there are outstanding deliveries around merch items. These vary from the known delays, such as the hats and hoodies, that are still very much a work in progress, albeit more progress than there was a couple of weeks ago, to some other bits and pieces like the infinite object frames. Jack can speak to this at length, but the basic issue we've had is that with infinite objects, they are obviously accustomed to dealing with NFT collections. And in recent times, they've basically pushed back on every order that Jack has placed on the community's behalf, asking for proof of ownership of the NFT and commercial right to use the NFT before sending it out. So each one of those orders that we've placed on behalf of a whale holder or a competition winner has basically created a migraine for Jack that he's had to go back and forth 100 times on. It seems like we're getting to the end of that process. We've also taken delivery of all of the physical hats, which will be embroidered shortly. And then beyond that, we'll move on to the metal prints and hoodies. So in brief, I apologize on behalf of the project for the delays in delivery of those items. We are working through it, and we hope to have resolution on each of those in the relatively short term, but watch this space. The second thing that's come up fairly consistently in terms of outstanding delivery is the upcoming airdrop, our second airdrop to the community. The first was relatively straightforward in so much as the utility of it could come later. The design of it was relatively straightforward. It relates to our future icon token, and as such was designed by our in-house designer, overseen by Dynasty, and delivered in a relatively prompt creation cycle. This second airdrop, without wanting to give too much away, is completely distinct from that. It doesn't relate to anything specific to the project. It's something Incognito branded that can be used in the wider Web3 environment. I think that's probably a pretty good giveaway. But as a result of that, we've had to consult with external designers and quality checkers to make sure that the product we're creating is fit for purpose. So there's been 3 full design cycles on that airdrop. It is now, I understand, in a fit state. So that's going through final sign-off now, and Dynasty will have the pleasure of announcing the terms of distribution with regards to delisting in due course. The rules will be the same, either fully delisted or listed above 2 ETH. But he's going to give a grace period for people to meet those terms, given the delay in the delivery. So it's an exciting, nice to have. It will be delivered shortly. I'll let Dynasty opine on the specific dates around that. But Jack, is there anything you think worth adding to that with regards to the second airdrop?
No, I think you covered it. Yes, it's just a matter of quality control. I understand the design is being finalized now. Look forward to getting that out to you guys. I know there was some questions about Snapshot concerning this. Nobody fret. Dynasty has assured us that he will give everybody plenty of heads up via announcement to make sure nobody is left sleeping at the wheel when this user airdrop comes.
Fantastic. And then one fun administrative item is that you may have seen in the Discord, we've recently added a poker channel. That was launched, but then fairly slow to come to hand just because there were so many other priority items outstanding. Not least of all was the display issue we had with OpenSea and some bits and pieces with our devs that I'll come on to shortly. But I am pleased to see that Jack has in fact installed the poker app into the Discord as of this week. And we will therefore be able to host our inaugural game in the coming 7 days with prizes contributed from the vault. So we'll be in touch with you guys via the Discord to arrange that, but that will be coming in the next 7 days. So anyone who doesn't find trading NFTs and degenning around Web3 enough of a thrill will be able to leverage that into a poker game to win NFTs on top. So that's the outstanding administrative items. Jack, unless you have anything to add to that list?
Just a heads up concerning poker, guys. Do check out the poker now. The poker, yeah, I think just hashtag poker in the server. There are some commands in there you can use to claim your poker chips and easily be able to launch games, guys. So just everybody go in there, get familiar with one another, and we will try to arrange a game amongst each other. If that sounds something you're interested in, there's even some chatter to maybe have a game after we wrap today's Spaces event. So stay tuned for that. Let's continue.
Fantastic. So I think the best way to approach this call really is to give a brief overview of what we've discussed in part in the Discord, which is the new roadmap as Jack, I, and Dynasty see it for 2022 with regards to Incognito, where we are today in phase one, where phase one will take us to in early Q1, and then beyond that, what phase two looks like. And that brings in a number of questions around tokenomics, the future direction of the collection, marketing, partnerships, the metaverse, and so on. So I'll just bore you all for a couple of minutes with what we've done so far and what we plan to do in the coming weeks. We'll then talk in very broad terms about what phase two might and should look like, assuming the success of phase one. And then I'll bring in questions that we've had so far. And at the end, we'll wrap it up with some other bits and pieces, some requests we've had, any other business, and then we'll invite people to join us with more questions either via the Discord or on stage here. So you may recall that going back to early mid-December, we announced that we would be launching a buy-to-burn initiative, which would see funds committed from the vault in the first instance to buy a meaningful proportion of supply from the floor. Those icons would then be sent to the burn address with the intention of reducing supply in the short term, but importantly would be supported with future royalties from the collection, adding to that buyback and burn process with the target of removing 1,000 Incognitos in the medium term from the collection. We'll come on to it in more detail in phase two, but the follow-up to that is that we actually want to target the reduction of 2,000 from the collection, 20% of the overall collection, by inviting holders to utilize the burn address in exchange for our upcoming icon token. That's meaningful for a couple of reasons. First of all, I think there's a increasing desire amongst large holders to see evolution from the project, to see the value of their holdings increase, but without wanting to flood the floor on the way out. This gives large holders the opportunity to do that by burning in exchange for an icon token. So that's meaningful. I think the second thing is that over the course of the evolution of the NFT space as a whole, putting aside Incognito and just looking at the overall NFT space, the appetite for collections of 10,000 is perhaps diminished from where it was in August, September of this year. I also think that unlike many other collections that are cartoon and pixel based, there's some very distinct quality differences between what many people perceive to be common or flaw Incognitos versus the more rare and desirable traits. So if you're looking at two cartoon pictures of a lion, it's very difficult to see at first glance which might be conceived as being more aesthetically pleasing. In our collection, I think if you're looking at a robotic VR headset versus potentially one of the more common base traits with a cigarette or a toothpick, everyone obviously has their own subjective view on which they prefer, but on balance, most would prefer the former to the latter. So as a result of that, there's almost a constant flood of less desirable icons at the floor. I think removing those from the collection, increasing the scarcity of the collection whilst improving its aesthetic is a no-brainer. And I think doing it in 3 phases is an interesting approach that allows us to commit funds alongside the community and commit further as we see the community committing to the buyback as well. So that's the concept. So far, we've bought over 100 Incognitos. We've been very, very clear and transparent on this from the beginning, that we have no intention of rushing in to spend all of our available ETH, moving the floor from 0.05 to 0.2, only to see it flooded at 0.05 again within a week and having overpaid for our floor icons. We're going to get as many of these things as we can for the money that we have available. We're going to get value for money for the project and for the community, reduce supply by as meaningful amount as we can with the money that we have available. And as the floor rises and volume is created by the excitement of that and by the improving quality of the collection, naturally the royalties that we accumulate will pay for further buybacks, and that momentum will be carried into phase 2 of the project. So don't be frustrated when you see Jack or I or Dynasty go on and buy 15 Incognitos and then say, okay, we're just going to pause for a second. That doesn't display a lack of appetite for us to continue with the process. We are continuing the process. It's highly likely that I'll buy a few more on behalf of the project tonight. But what we're not going to do is overpay in an attempt to create a short-term pump, because we've seen in the past that those short-term pumps are exactly that, they're short-term. What we're trying to do is create meaningful change for the project over the course of the medium to long term. And this will reward people that stick with us throughout this initiative much more than it will people who are looking to take 0.03 flips out of our buyback, who we've got no interest in facilitating. Jack, before I move on to how that might pertain to phase 2 and where we're going with this, is there anything that you want to add about what we've done so far?
No, I would just want to commend your efforts, of course. I think this entire buyback has been mostly spearheaded by you. Indeed, many of us have tried to float similar ideas with Dynasty. You seem to have been able to accomplish the impossible. So my hat's off to you. There really isn't much more to add, guys. There's plenty of details, of course, in the announcements if you do want to give it a bit of a read. Matt has expanded all his thoughts concerning this roadmap in the announcement channel, likely more to come as well. That's about it.
Yeah, and I should echo Jack's comments there. Whilst I've had the good fortune of being the straw that broke the camel's back, I was not the first or last to make similar recommendations to Dynasty around this project. Jack and many others in all of the community channels had made similar propositions. I think the difference is that the community, having spoken for so long, and the NFT environment having changed so much, I was fortunate to make my proposal at a time when Dynasty was ready to listen. So I can't take any meaningful credit for the idea itself. What I hope I will be able to take credit for in due course is the implementation of it, and making sure that between myself, Jack, and Dynasty, we actually deliver a project that's working for you guys, not just artistically, but commercially as well. Speaking of which, we will move on to discuss phase 2. So there's been a number of questions around implementation of phase 1, which I hope I've spoken to, but if not, please shove your hand up in the Discord or on here. With regards to phase 2, there's going to be a number of things to consider. So the first I'll touch on is the airdrop that you've already received. So anyone with delisted icons received, going back a month or so, an NFT of an icon coin, which at first glance is very pretty, currently has no utility, of course, and is therefore extremely cheap to buy on the secondary market. Why would anyone who doesn't own one consider buying one in advance of us moving to phase 2? It's because as and when we launch our icon token, the token will be distributed to holders according to two things: the number, the quantum of NFTs you own in the Incognito collection, and also the rarity of those Incognitos, such that someone who's decided to focus their efforts buying a couple of extremely rares isn't disproportionately punished versus someone who's decided to spend the same amount of money sweeping 20 from the floor. So we're looking to reward both scarcity and quantum. And holding the icon coin in your wallet at the time which icon tokens are distributed will act as a multiplying agent, such that were you to have received one icon token previously, you'll now receive 1.1, 1.2, whatever that percentage uplift is that we decide in due course. So if anyone's wondering or has missed an announcement with regards to what that token, what that NFT does, that's the purpose for holding it. Not financial advice, but if you were looking for a reason to go and grab one, if you did miss out on that airdrop, there's your reason. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to understand what icon will be useful for as a token. Ichike, who has significantly more experience than me in the field of tokenomics and launching projects or launching tokens on behalf of new startup projects, has quite rightly asked a number of good questions around the function of icon as a token. One of which was, are we concerned about the regulatory position of launching what in effect could be viewed as a currency onto our NFT collection? Yes, is the short answer to that. We are very much concerned, which is why we're going to take things very slowly and take the advice of people like Itchy, like Steamboat, like Osiris, seasoned members of our community into consideration pre-launch. We're also going to take legal advice, obviously. But the key thing is to make sure that the token itself has clear and understandable utility within our collection. In other words, it's not just a token which serves a trading purpose or acts as a currency pair versus another token, but actually has utility within our art collection. And it's very clear to me that it will have that, because the primary purpose of that token will be to allow holders to mint new NFTs from future Incognito collections. So the fundamental principle is that as our main collection shrinks over time with the buyback and burn initiative, we will replace part of the collection with new evolution series that we launch over time. So let's, for argument's sake, say that we bought and burnt 1,000 Incognitos from the sort of Genesis collection. We would then look to mint 500 new rare Incognito Mark IIs or Incognito evolutions out into the NFT sphere, and only people using the icon coin will have access to those mints. So either you'll be able to buy whitelist spots using your icon coins or icon tokens, or we'll go a step further and in fact make the icon token the currency of the mint. In other words, you won't need to pay anything addition beyond gas to mint the token. Sorry, to mint the new collection, because you'll have accumulated icon. So the way to accumulate it will be threefold. The first is via holding Incognitos. The second is via multiplying it using the NFT token that we've airdropped to diamond-handed holders. And the third will be given the option to burn your own icons, your own floor icons, in exchange for icon tokens in due course. So that's the sort of principle of it. In terms of the functionality, ItchyK also asks around whether or not we'll be allowing staking and yield farming using the token. It appears to be sort of relatively common practice amongst the number of collections I've looked at, but it also appears relatively clear to me that in legal terms, once you get into staking and yield farming, you are verging on offering a security for sale, which is obviously going to create SEC questions for our friends in the States and FCA questions over here in London. So I think it's an area we need to tread very, very carefully on. We can obviously take advice from those better informed than me within the community. I think beyond that, we also need to take further advice from a few legal eagles just to make sure that we don't step on the wrong side of that regulatory line. In principle, yes, we'd love to offer staking. We'd love to offer some sort of financial incentive to own Icon and to lend it into pools. But that's something that we need to really game out properly before committing to at this stage. Jack, on the token front, is there anything you want to contribute before I move on to what those evolutions might look like?
Well, certainly. Well, my comments mostly had to do with just that, what those potential evolutions could look like. But yeah, you've done a great job, I think, of outlining a major future utility of this. And as you also touched on, we're looking to kind of reduce the supply, but at the same time give us opportunities to reintroduce new icons, always with I guess maybe the overarching goal of always kind of keeping the collection dwindling from 10,000. But this gives us an opportunity to kind of introduce fresh new things, fresh new traits, kind of keep moving with the times, and of course finding like a pretty amazing utility for the token along the way. So very, very, very exciting stuff to game all this out. But yeah, let's discuss what Gen 2 might look like.
Yeah, so look, I mean, Jack's actually set up a channel, I think, within the general chat on the Discord group to sort of game out some ideas around what that might look like. In my mind, there's a few obvious examples. Like obviously we could work towards having significantly more rare base traits. So obviously at the moment, the pinnacle of that is our Lego and our gold collection. But there's no reason why we couldn't expand those rare traits to replace. I mean, we've got 7,000 plastics sat at the bottom of the collection. If we were to burn 1,000 of those and replace them with 200 diamond-based icons, 200 mahogany-based icons, 200 incognitas, as has long been discussed in the Discord, then what you're doing is basically, in addition to restricting supply, you're increasing rarity of individual assets. And at that stage, it becomes a very clear and obvious rationale as to why you would get rid of 2 or 3 floor icons to take something significantly more rare. For example, just as an arbitrary thing, if someone offered me the ability to go and burn 10 of my plastics right now in exchange for a gold, that would be an obvious choice for me to say, yes, I'm interested in doing that. In effect, what we'll be just saying by allowing people to burn for icon, which in turn can be used to mint these new traits, is a very similar transaction. So I expect uptake to be very, very high. I therefore expect us to be oversubscribed on the intended first round of burning. And I think by being oversubscribed, that's going to allow us to go through this cycle numerous times, each time getting rid of 1,000 icons and replacing them with 500 significantly more rare icons. And over time, I see the overall size of the collection increasing, the number of different collections within the Incognito family increasing, and the rarity of each individual Incognito within the collection increasing alongside. So I think it's a compelling argument. I think it will increase the value and the scarcity of each individual piece. That obviously isn't financial advice. However, supply and demand dictates the less of something there is, all else being equal, the price will typically go up. So our ambition is to create a valuable, increasingly rare, increasingly desirable collection for you guys and for ourselves. And that's the way we're trying to approach it. So Jack, aside from those few options that I mentioned there, have you got any other ideas around what future evolutions might look like? Any interesting ideas?
I would mention, just to kind of honor the initial makeup or the layout of the collection to some degree. I'm going to make sure that we avoid, for instance, being able to mint, like one example to be mint plastics into gold. I don't think it's fair necessarily for existing, say, gold holders to have more golds introduced to the collection. So the future would be one in which we indeed introduce new traits, but you're not necessarily going to be minting up from plastic to marble or marble to concrete. The upside, it's mostly upside for all existing holders. So even if you have a relatively common trait, we'll basically promising we won't actually inflate your supply. If anything, we're just going to be burning existing supply and only introducing completely new traits. So anybody who has an existing holder and thinks this might by some chance dilute their holdings, I assure you that's not the direction we're going in. We're only looking to actually reduce the supply of some traits. So something that might be like medium rare right now, once enough of them get burned, suddenly, toothpicks might become rare enough that they're desirable again, right? Something to think about, guys.
Yeah, so sorry, I think probably I've in true British style, mumbled my way through an example and come across wrong there. So let me just reiterate what Jack said. When I was talking about burning a number of sort of hypothetically low value icons in exchange for a higher value icon, I was using that very much as an example to reiterate what Jack says. There's no intention and will be no intention to increase the supply of currently rare and valuable icons. When I was using the example of burning 10 plastics to get 1 gold, that was analogous to burning plastics for receipt of a new base material, which is equally rare as the gold, for example.
Yes, exactly, guys. And if you want to help us brainstorm some potential ideas for new bases and stuff, we're very excitingly thinking of dreaming up new possibilities that we hope to take to our artist Nux someday soon and be like, all right, man, generation 2, the next season is going to be around the corner. What do you say, Nux? We come up with, say, two new bases, 20 new traits, and then slowly we filter out old traits, less desirable ones, introduce newer, fresher ones that people want. And, you can see it as we repeatedly do this, keeps the collection fresh and exciting, and provides a lot of utility and opportunity for existing holders and anybody getting involved, I guess, in this ecosystem we're going to be building.
Yeah. So I'm conscious that I've been deliberately vague in my answer to some of those questions. So let me just overview exactly what phase 2 looks like. There will be an airdrop of Incognito's token, which will be named Icon, to existing holders. It will be distributed according to the number and rarity of the icons that you hold. It will be multiplied according to your ownership or otherwise of the Icon NFT. That token will be usable, or its utility will be to mint or to gain white label access to future Incognito Evolutions collections. You will be able to enhance your holding by burning floor icons in exchange for additional icon tokens. And we will game out the possibility of allowing for staking and associated yield income according to the regulatory concerns that we have around that. The amount of icon that will be distributed, the split between common and rare distribution, the amount of icon you will receive in exchange for burning a single icon, the amount of icon required in order to mint a new evolution project, etc., all need to be gamed out in full. I've put back of a fag packet pencil numbers down on paper to Jack and Dynasty historically. We need to open those calculations up to Osiris, to Itchy, to Steamboat, to Sovres, and many others in our community with a great deal of experience in this area. Make sure that everyone's completely comfortable, and only at that point do we proceed to actually start designing this project on a technical basis. So there will be weeks and months of discussion around this. It will then take weeks and months of delivery. We're very loosely committing to end of Q1 to provide more detail on what this is specifically going to look like, but we are deliberately not committing to a firm date because I think that's a mistake that the project's made in the past and not one that we intend to repeat. But we want to be transparent with you guys all the way through, tell you what the project looks like, tell you what the intentions are, tell you where we need help and where we don't. And hopefully by doing that, you'll get true insight into where we're going without having the frustration of feeling like we're letting you down by missing delivery dates. Jack, anything to add?
No, I think that's well said. Let's continue.
Great. So that's the roadmap. Now, there's kind of two other key areas that I want to talk to before we move on to any other business. The first of which is just answering some requests that we've had through. These are kind of just vanilla questions that have come through in advance of the AMA. So I'll answer some of these and then I'll just hand over to Jack where he has the information that I don't, and he can talk to them. So the first is an interesting one, which I think actually makes sense in principle, which is to add some sort of incentive or ranking system to our Discord community that rewards regular posters and guys that are working to build the community day in, day out via regular contributions and ensuring that the community thrives even in quiet times. I think that's important. I think we can achieve that in a number of different ways. What I don't want to do is encourage the kind of shit posting that you see in other communities where people are just constantly in the Discord talking nonsense rather than adding meaning to the community. So we'd have to think about how we avoid that. But certainly there are 20, 30, 40 guys, each of whom I could sit here and name, who are consistently hammering away in Discord, making the community a great place to be. I certainly appreciate it when I wake up in London hours and when I go to bed at midnight and you guys are coming online in the West Coast. A lot of the same guys are still there chatting away and making it a great place to be. So I think that request is fair. I think I'd like for me and Jack and Dynasty to sit down and work out a way to reward those guys, but I'm not going to commit to anything right now. Jack, any comments?
Sure. One thing we're thinking of implementing, guys, of course, is common to many Discord servers is a ranking system, right? The more you engage in activity in the server, the more you rank up. And if we'll find a way to, of course, reciprocate with prizes and rewards would be the general idea. If not that, it's very clear, of course, who are some of our most dedicated and usual, regulars in the chat, guys, and anything to keep the good vibes going. Guys, we appreciate it. We make notes of everyone, and we'll try not to forget you at the next Christmas.
Thank you, sir. I think the next one's largely being raised in jest, not least of all because I think people are conscious of how much of a heart attack the existing outstanding merch pile has caused Jack. So people have kind of poked fun and asked questions around, when a beanie's going to be delivered, when a smoke pipe's going to be delivered, etc. For me, this is just a hard no, because I've seen the heartache Jack's gone through to try and get 200 hats and 100 hoodies out the door. And frankly, when we've got a 2 ETH floor, people can buy their own hats. So for me, yes, once we're Bored Ape Yacht Club, we should talk about whether or not people should get Bored Ape Yacht Club t-shirts. At the moment, our floor is 0.05 and all of our energy, time, financial investment, work commitment should be put into correcting that fact, because our art is much too good to be sat down here. But we have failed to deliver on various points and, more importantly, failed to communicate around those points historically. If we can fix that first, then we can discuss distributing hats and t-shirts in due course. That's not to belittle it. People were promised merchandise. We should fulfill those promises. What we shouldn't do is make further promises that are going to take myself, Jack, Dynasty away from the main goal of this project, which is to create something valuable and meaningful for the long term. So my view is very straightforward. Don't concentrate on things which are taking your attention away from the main goal, which is to create genuine value. All of that being said, it's Jack's problem, really, so maybe he should say something.
Certainly. Okay, well, part of the issue is, of course, earlier on, there was an ambition to, of course, deliver NFC-powered merch, right? The hoodie being, of course, our first kind of premier product in this domain. And we're, of course, partnered with those IYK guys. Now, this is all pretty new. I think we're one of the probably first projects that they are, building such a thing with. So part of the project wanted, Dynasty wants to get some merch out quickly. Other people, of course, want merch as well. For me, I do aside with Matt's thoughts here. Obviously, when there's so much fundamentally that needs addressing with the project, I don't want to overly obsess about merch and additional promises. Down the road, of course, I would love to reach a gold standard, guys. We don't need to have a very elaborate line of merch, but I would love to hit the standard where, whether it's the hat, the hoodie, or the t-shirt, the merch that we produce will have the NFC functionality that will include the metaverse stuff to go with it. But I just don't think we're at that stage to deliver all that yet. Now, obviously, the hoodie is part one, and it's going to be very satisfying to finally deliver that along with its NFT equivalent. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves just yet. And I do hope those IYK guys, they hit their stride as well. And I think we will, our partnership will bear many fruit at that time. But for the time being, guys, I side with Matt here. Let's not get overly ambitious with the physical merch. Physical merch, very hard to clearly deliver on.
Yeah, so I liken this to a situation I encountered in my last sort of formal role in financial services, which is that I joined a brokerage that historically had a very strong focus on retail clients, right? So it's trading technology for high-value clients, for institutions. For big business wasn't really there. The service proposition wasn't really there. And I went into a meeting with the CEO on sort of day one and said, look, what's the ambition here? And his ambition was to go and be Goldman Sachs. But in reality, we weren't even a very good version of a small brokerage. So, obviously, one day, be better than Bored Ape Yacht Club and have better merch than them. But today, let's be a good, small and growing NFT collection, and then be a medium-sized NFT collection, and then be a large NFT collection that can go on and compete with blue chips. But you don't go from A to Z without going through all of the options in the middle. So my argument is very simple. Let's focus on doing that alphabet. Let's get to the place where we want to be. And then when we're in celebratory mode, when we get there, I'll pay for the hoodies myself. So
there you have it.
So that's kind of where I stand on it. That being said, it's not my project. Dynasty has complete autonomy to go and say the complete opposite. And maybe next week we'll be promising to send out 200 smoke pipes. But I suspect that for the time being, we're going to focus on getting the project to where it needs to be. The next question I'm going to tread carefully on. I think it's well intended. The people that have asked it in good faith, but I'll explain why I'm being slightly hesitant. A number of people have asked, who are the community staff? What are they doing? Why were they given their roles? And why haven't we seen them more actively engaged in what they're doing? I think the intention of setting up the community team was good. I think it was the first realization from Dynasty that running a project of this size and turning it into a mid to large size NFT collection over time is not a one-man job. So that was a significant positive step from him. I think the issue is that when you ask people to volunteer their time and efforts from the outside of a community, rather than from within the project itself, there's always going to be times when they struggle to prioritize unpaid work over their real life stuff, whether that's professional, family, or whatever it might be. So encouraging people to deliver at a time when our own internal communication was poor, we weren't delivering on the things that the project said it was going to deliver on, and then expecting people to go above and beyond to force delivery of their own agenda items when Dynasty himself couldn't even commit time to discussing those because of all the things that were going on in the background, meant that a lot of that fell away over time. I don't place any blame at the door of the guys who put their hands up to volunteer and then didn't follow through, because their failure to follow through wasn't a failure. It was just the reality of the situation as they saw it at the time. What I would say, however, is that Dynasty has taken a significant leap of faith by adding me to the project. He continues to request Jack's assistance at every turn, and he is increasingly aware of the fact that if we're going to get this to the next phase, it's going to be a team effort rather than a one-man show. And I think by entrusting me and Jack in paid capacities to deliver on certain items, he has built enough of a team around him that we can get the fundamentals done now before adding further staff to the kitchen. So this has never been, and I doubt will ever be, a DAO. I don't think we're aiming for full community control. What we're aiming for is to have a team of professional guys with expert knowledge in certain areas brought in as required to deliver, with the feedback of the community taken fully on board. So that doesn't mean going out and hiring a team of 40 unpaid volunteers to try and build a project. It means having a tight-knit team of people working not full-time, but daily on the project. I myself have agreed to commit several hours every day to this project for the foreseeable future. Jack, as you've all seen for the last however many months, has been doing exactly that. And I don't see any reason why between the three of us we can't get the fundamentals ironed out with the support and advice of our holders before adding more chefs to the kitchen. So I kind of reticent to get involved in arguments about it, but I would strongly prefer that I don't see people in the Discord slagging off people that were tagged with yellow names and expected to deliver without being given the tools to do so. I think in due course we'll invite people back into the fold to try and deliver bits and pieces as part of this project roadmap that we've laid out. And I think when we do that, we'll be in a much better position to help them deliver than we were the first time round. Jack, have you got any perspective to share there?
For sure. I think all things considered, guys, the last few months were a bit of a rut, least of which, of course, was the animations, right? The previews. This is the fundamental. The previews were turned around, spun the wrong way. And of course, we're waiting, for the plastics to begin. So there's a huge disparity in the presentation of our collection on OpenSea. And I think as a result, a lot of us, I know me personally, I speak for myself in this regard. With the collection turned backwards and some of the other difficulties, it's hard to kind of step on the gas of marketing and excitement and try to point people to go look at your collection when it's in such a sad state, guys. I think that was the consequence. So I want to echo much of what Matt was saying. There's no hard feelings at all to the people that were tasked to kind of strike out and help out. But of course, I think we just weren't in the right spot. But this is what tonight's space is, and this whole dialogue tonight is about, guys. 2022 is right here. This next year, we are going to, I think, accomplish a great deal more. And I think with the right footing, I think we'll see even some of those existing people re-engage and help us prosper. All right, so I'm quite confident once we get off on the right foot, much of that will right itself again. And yes, we'll pick up even maybe more personalities that'll help us accomplish all that. At the same time, we're very lean. I think we can work very efficiently. Trust Matt and I to get a great deal of this done, of course, with Dynasty willing.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I have to say, ever since I was added to the team, Jack's been nothing but supportive. It would be very easy to take an instinctive sort of knee-jerk reaction as to, I've been doing this from the beginning. Who's this new guy coming in shouting off ideas? But actually, everything that I've said has either been rebutted with good reason or supported strongly by Jack. And he's very much been instrumental in delivering a lot of the stuff that we're now doing. So I'm confident that between he and I, we can provide the necessary assistance to Dynasty to make this thing start to tick. That being said, I've been doing these sort of commercial roles for a long time. I'm confident in what I know I can do, but I'm also very aware of the long list of things that I can't do and that I'm not good at. And thankfully, one of the sort of valuable lessons of experience is to not try and force yourself through a process of delivering something that you can't, but rather putting your hand up and asking for assistance from people who are better placed to produce that work. So certainly when the time comes to game out tokenomics, certainly when the time comes to discuss smart contracts for the delivery of the new evolution collections, and other similar technical items, you'll find me very vocal on Discord, requesting the assistance of people who are better placed than me to deliver that work, rather than trying to bluff my way through it. Because again, I think, you know, we've all learned lessons of the past in this collection. If we say we want to do something, let's get the right people doing the work to get it done. This is more of an administrative item, but it's something that's probably slipped through the net in terms of our communication. So just to clarify, one of the guys was asking about ongoing rewards for ownership of the Incognito NFTs. Did all of the whale rewards get distributed at the beginning and nothing since? In fact, from a Schadenfreude point of view, you'll be pleased to hear that most of the whales are still waiting on all of their rewards due to the various delivery issues around the IO frames and the metal prints. So no one's missed anything. You still very much have a chance to add to your bag and take advantage of that reward process. But in fact, it's all laid out in the original roadmap that should you become a whale at any point and hold your position for 2 weeks, you then qualify for that tier's rewards anyway. So it's not that everything was done and dusted. Any of the guys sitting holding a bag of 10 who increased to a bag of 20 would instantaneously qualify. Well, instantaneously is completely the wrong word to use, but a fortnight later would qualify for an IO frame, which would give Jack need for some more aspirin, but would be delivered. And similarly, any of the existing whale sharks who make their way up to 50, who I know a couple, Pashimo being one, Itchy being another, Nuno being another, each of those guys making their way up to 50 would qualify them for a metal print in due course. So that is very much still the case. There's nothing changed there, but there's certainly incentive beyond the art and the future value of the project. There's real world incentive to go and pick up a few whilst the price is down here. That actually leads me to another question which has come up, which I am slightly disappointed we haven't delivered on it. And so I will make my first commitment of the call to announce something within a week of this, which is that I think we should be rewarding the next tier down, which is Tuna. We said we would work from the top up, and we have, but whale shark rewards were announced some time ago. I'd like to see us rewarding the guys at Tuna level who have made their way up from Nemo and from single digits into the doubles, because I think those are the guys who are really helping us alongside the whales to support the floor at the moment and to build the community. I have a very specific and straightforward idea for how we can do that. So I will pitch that to Jack and Dynasty this week, and all being well, we'll make an announcement within 7 days about how we're going to reward people getting to double-digit holdings going forwards. So hold me to that. It is Wednesday today. If by Wednesday of next week I haven't announced some form of reward for Tuna holders, tag me in the Discord and say rude things to me. Speaking of Discord, Jack, this is very much one for you because you've seen me clumsily hacking my way around the various servers there. A couple of questions around cleaning up the appearance of the Discord. Collabland, I think we now have a new working bot in place of the Collabland bot, do we, to verify holders?
I believe so. That's something I think Dynasty took upon himself to fix. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. I think the Collabland verify bot is working. If it's not, of course, do let me know. I will make sure it's fixed. Alternatively, of course, if you don't like connecting to the Collabland bot, feel free to DM me. I'll manually verify you. As far as general cleanup, you know what? I agree, guys. I try not to go out of my way because the Discord structure is very much Dynasty's. He likes to kind of keep it a certain way. But maybe you guys are right. Maybe we do need a bit of a pruning here. I did notice that comment in here, so I made a note of it. I will be bringing it up with Dynasty. Let's get rid of some, less necessary channels.
Okay, superb. So this is a subject that I suppose will make or break whether or not I add genuine value to this project over time alongside the roadmap. What are we going to do about expanding awareness of the Incognito product amongst the wider community? How do we convince existing holders to carry on holding and add to their bags? How do we further convince them to burn their less desired icons as opposed to flogging them at the floor? And how do we make our way out from our very small corner of the NFT space into the wider NFT community, the wider crypto community, and the wider Web3 communities in due course? What we're not going to do is go and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in Times Square or on space balloons. That's not to disparage those decisions which were taken at a time when we were in full-blown bull market mode in NFT world. NFTs in general are undergoing a slight revival as we speak, but we are in a very, very different place to where we were in August or September. The smart move is to conserve the funds that the community has in order to follow through on this roadmap, deliver the evolution that we've spoken about, and to support the floor. So what do we do instead? Well, we don't go out and spend money that we can't accurately track the ROI on. Instead, we engage meaningfully with the wider community via social media. That sounds very straightforward. However, where we've made a mistake historically, and again, this is not a finger-pointing exercise, I was very much part of the Twitter raids group. I was very much one to shill the bag regularly on Twitter in the absence of any meaningful output from the channel, or rather from the project account. What we need to do is actually very straightforward. We need to be seen to be participating in meaningful conversations throughout the Web3 space. What do I mean by that? Well, I mean, rather than singularly posting icon of the day, which there is no harm in whatsoever, we want to show off our art to our existing holders and our existing community. We need to go and make ourselves known outside of our current echo chamber. We have 14,000 Twitter followers currently, all of whom have seen our daily tweets about our robotic trait or our moustache trait, none of whom are supporting the floor as a result. What we need to do is make new people aware of our product and bring new buyers into our sphere of influence. And we do that not by going and joining some Bored Ape Yacht Club with 30,000 followers who's trying to get to 32,000 followers by saying, show me your NFT, and then not reading any of the 30,000 responses. What we do is we enter into conversations where we can have meaningful contributions that will be appreciated, not just by the content provider in the first place, but by all of the people seeking out that content. So if anyone has 5 minutes after this call, I've been responsible for the Twitter channel Incognito for the last 48 hours. Rather than just looking at the tweets, which you'll see mirrored into the Discord, if you click on our profile and look at tweets and replies and look at the engagement I've been attempting with other people throughout the NFT and wider crypto space, and the kind of conversations that I'm trying to initiate with those people, what we can do as a community, instead of shilling within those channels, is to join those conversations by effectively upvoting Incognito's contributions. So you can do that by liking and retweeting the contributions we make as an account. Now, don't do that if you don't agree with what it is that I'm saying. There's a lot of contentious points to discuss within Web3, whether it's in the NFT, crypto, altcoin, whatever it might be, side of that. I'm going to be putting my views out there in as least controversial way as possible. And if you agree with the gist of what I'm saying, you can retweet and like those tweets such that the person who's provided the initial content is more likely to see our contribution. The people reading that initial content are likely to see a contribution from an NFT provider who's not shilling his product, but instead trying to make meaningful contributions to the community. And over the medium term, that will allow us to open up the second leg of this marketing angle. So what's that second leg? Well, the second leg is that instead of going and paying huge amounts of money to people to tweet about our project or to make short-term investments, which they then flip out of 2 weeks later and end up on YouTube bad-mouthing us about. Instead, we build relationships with true key opinion leaders within the space and invite them to come organically to our project on an advisory basis, take a position, work with us to build their bags in much the same way I and many others within our community have so far. And by doing that, we encourage them to organically open up to their communities, to their followers about Incognito as a product, which is significantly more meaningful than paying some 2-bit celebrity to shout about us for 5 minutes and then shout us down 5 minutes later. So the reason for this phase one, the reason to engage in these conversations is not just to try and improve the perception of our brand and to move away from this kind of shilling approach, but it's to open up conversations with those key opinion leaders that will allow us to organically attract them to the project in the medium term. Now, once you start to attract those, and you have a number of people whose opinion matters within our space working with us to promote our project, that then opens up the very important stage 3. which is to create partnerships with other projects within and without of the space, where we can have mutually beneficial marketing arrangements where, let's say, for example, a big game, a big blockchain game, a play-to-earn game, which has, I don't know, a space theme. And we say to them, look, we've built a community of 40,000 followers on Twitter, up from 14,000 3 months ago. We've done that with the support of the following KOLs, all of whom support our project. And we would like to support your project because we feel like this could be a big metaverse play, which is relevant to where we want to take our product in the long term. In exchange, we want you to provide our holders with utility within your game, such that we can say to our community, you have strong incentive to go out and support their product, to talk about it to your networks, because it's enhancing the value of your holding within Incognito. Now, if I were to approach one of the main metaverse platforms or one of the biggest games today to have that conversation, the very short answer would be, who is Incognito and why am I listening to you? And the actual answer would be that I wouldn't get one. They just delete my message. But to get to that point, we go through that 3-phase process of going through those social channels, not in the way that we have historically, but in this new way of creating organic interest in our product. And slowly but surely, we move from single tweets on Twitter on a daily basis to multiple conversations with multiple opinion leaders, through to those KOLs, and then into key partnerships that will enhance the value of our product over the medium to long term. So, I've been on a monologue for about 5 minutes there, but that is the marketing play as I see it. It doesn't involve spending money. It involves me personally spending my time seeking out relevant conversations to participate in the short term, and you guys supporting me in doing that by going to our page, not just looking at my proactive tweets, but also looking at my replies and the conversations that I'm participating in, and supporting me where you consider it appropriate by retweeting, liking, and adding your own opinions to those conversations, such that Incognito becomes central to those discussions. Jack, I need to have a sip of water.
Absolutely. Take a break, my man. Yes, what Matt describes here, guys, is a grassroots approach to marketing and tackling the Twitterverse. And honestly, this is precisely what I've dreamed of from day one. Me personally, guys, I'm not the person capable of delivering that on Twitter. As much as I wish I could, as much as I appreciate it, I'm just not that kind of Twitter guy. But this is the secret sauce to making it happen, guys, is meaningful engagement. Through this grassroots effort, guys, we boost our credibility first and foremost, right? You go from like a random shilly NFT project to one that's insightful and innovative and clearly moving with the times, one that's a market leader setting the pace for everybody else. And you demonstrate that by meaningfully engaging on Twitter. There's obviously other bread and butter ways to shill your project and make fun, engaging Twitter posts. But what Matt is describing, I thank him so much, because this is exactly what we are missing, and it's along these lines that I think restore our image of this project in the eyes of the one community that really matters. It's all happens here on Twitter, guys. So very cost effective in the process as well. So very, very good.
Thank you, sir. So look, I say that it's a 3-part process. That's definitely the reality of the situation, but that's not to say that we can't be ambitious and start reaching out via the extremely wide network that our community has as of today. So in my case, I've touched on the fact that since my exit from the city a year ago, I've basically been punting via a fund in various Web3 startup projects. I've reached out in the past 48 hours to a couple of those with propositions to say, look, I'm open to your suggestion, but the brass tacks of the fact are that we have a similar size following to you on Twitter. We're at a similar stage of our cycle, in so much as we're a 4-month startup. You guys are looking to make a print into your market. Is there anything that we could do to collaborate and cooperate, just in simple Twitter co-marketing terms? And I think if we can start to gauge responses from my network and then add to that the networks of all of the very many guys within our Discord who have relationships with startups within the space, it's not too much of a stretch to imagine that by the end of January, we could at least have come to marketing collaboration arrangements with 10 or 20 firms. Now, they're not going to be the sort of key influencer propositions that we hope to achieve over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, but it's certainly more valuable than spending hundreds of thousands of dollars that could have been contributed towards the roadmap doing big bang marketing effects. So I think the key for me is we'll keep plugging away. I appreciate any support that you guys can offer in helping to make our way through that 3-stage marketing effort. But in the meantime, if anyone's got any connections or contacts or recommendations for people to reach out to within either the NFT space or in crypto land in general, I'm all ears, because I'm more than happy to make those approaches and be told no 99 times out of 100, so that on the 100th time, someone with a meaningful following allows us to leverage off their network in exchange for leveraging off of ours. And I think the more of those types of agreements that we can come to, the more exposure we get without having to dip into the vault's resources.
I would also say committing to doing these Twitter spaces on the regular, and even providing this as an open venue for some of those said influencers of whatever tier to come on here. As long as we, keep the mic open on a regular basis, I'm certain, our marketing opportunities and relationships will present themselves, guys. It's just a matter of, moving forward, like the title of this Twitter Space event. I'm presuming, Matt, you're good to maybe schedule the next one right after we wrap, because if we could do this on a regular and invite people here, I think pretty soon we will foster those conditions.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there's no reason why we can't attempt to keep the community informed on a weekly basis, right? So I don't think we want to spread ourselves too thin such that we've got 20 people turning up to the same chat once every week. I think what we can do is we'll commit to communicating weekly, either in the Discord AMA channel or via Twitter Spaces. But the way I would see it is that when we're in the Discord, we talk incognito specifically, current and future plans, deliveries, failures, etc. And then we're in the Spaces world, it's because we've managed to cooperate with someone who has something meaningful to say either about our project or about crypto in general. So that kind of creates utility for our holders in 2 ways. The first is that we bring a new audience of people to a discussion, 50% of which is going to be about incognito, 50% about another topic, which means that our holders get access to a breadth of knowledge on topics they wouldn't necessarily hear within our Discord. And of course, in a more obvious way, it attracts 50% of an audience to look at our product who would never have been looking at it. So whether it's about gaming, or whether it's about altcoins, or whether it's about crypto, or whether it's about the pros and cons of full decentralization, whether it's about any number of subjects, real world art versus digital art, the market for NFTs and what that might look like in 5 years' time, whether NFTs as an art form are likely to be even a fraction of what NFTs can be over the long term. All of these things are things that 90% of our community are going to be interested in hearing about. And in hearing about them, they get the added bonus of attracting communities from those spaces into ours. And we get the opportunity to sell them our product in an organic way without shilling it to them.
Yeah, we've got some smart blokes here. There's no reason we can't put on some halfway entertaining conversations.
I agree. And look, when we get to stage 2 and stage 3 of the marketing plan, it will be people coming to us to say, can we co-host a space? Because we want to talk to your community about our product. But right now it's the other way around. We need to reach out to people. We need to leverage the expertise of people within our own community. And slowly but surely, we'll start to tip the balance of those scales such that we're the ones in demand. But for now, we want to communicate regularly with you guys. We want to be transparent and honest about what's going on. We can get to the real nitty gritty of any failures within the Discord, keep it in-house, explain to everyone exactly what's going on and why. And, being more optimistic, show off about any deliveries that Jack and Dynasty have managed to make. But then out in the Twitter sphere, it's a marketing tool. And so in that area, we don't want to just be shouting about incognitos. We want to be talking about interesting subjects that matter to the wider community. So that's the sort of marketing plan in a nutshell. One other thing I would like to touch on is that I used to work at a brokerage called CMC Markets in London. They have offices all over the place, but not in the US because CFDs, the leverage product that they trade, is illegal in the US. But the reason I'm telling you about that is that when I went there, as I touched on earlier, they had no reputation for high net worth or institutional business, and it was my job to set up those departments and get them running. And absent of a $50 million marketing fund to go out and compete with the leaders in our space, The first job was to call every journalist in London, Europe, and further afield and tell them that I would be quite happy on a daily basis via my mobile number to provide free market commentary to them when they were all writing their end-of-day market wraps for whichever newspaper they were writing for. Via those channels, we typically picked up 50 to 100 publications per week just by me saying things as bland as the FTSE closed down today because the banks were struggling. And then they would write in their newspaper, the FTSE closed down today because the banks were struggling, according to Matt Bassey at CMC Markets. And that became a really meaningful marketing channel that actually ended up with me presenting on the BBC and being invited to read the morning papers on there, just via people seeing my name in the newspaper and thinking that it meant something when actually I'd read that line to the journalist over the phone with a hangover at 7 a.m. So what I'd like us to explore doing in all of our geographies, I know we've got holders across Australasia, Asia, Europe, the UK, and the US and South America. If anyone has any meaningful connection with any real-world print journalist, I would like them to reach out to me, tell me what publication they have a connection at, and I will be more than happy to provide my mobile number to any journalist globally who's looking for comment on anything broadly crypto-related, on the basis that I'll give it to them any time of day, 24/7, as long as they tag it with according to Matt at IncognitoNFT. And that way, in addition to our digital efforts, we're making some real-world efforts at zero cost to get our name out to anywhere in print where crypto is mentioned. So I'll leave that one with you guys, but if you have any journalistic connections, I'm going to reach out to my network in London, but if you have any global journalistic connections who you think might be interested in some free crypto commentary from the kind of guy who turns a 5-minute conversation into an hour and 7-minute conversation, I am at their disposal. So that, I think, concludes my ramblings on the marketing front, which leads us to the any other business section. I've just got 3 brief points, and then I will hand over to Jack to opine on any other bits and pieces before inviting questions from you guys. We have a partnership with the Ethereal Collective. Smiler EC is in our Discord answering questions if you tag him. But these are the guys who hosted the NFT Crapper event in London at the beginning of December, which I had 8 Guinness and attended and pretended I only had 2 Guinness. But it was a genuinely professional event. Well run, well attended, the right kind of atmosphere, the right kind of approach, which was displaying but not shilling, genuine communication amongst the various teams that were there. And I think these guys are onto something good. The reason I mention this is that they will be announcing their global tour dates on Twitter tomorrow. And Jack has negotiated with them that on each of those 5 dates in 2022, Incognito's art is going to be displayed front and center in their various galleries around the world. I strongly recommend giving them a quick follow on Twitter and having a look at what's going on tomorrow, because I think you'll be impressed, not just with the quality of the events they put on, but the destinations they have handpicked for 2022 are exciting to say the least. So that's just worth a quick mention. On the subject of future Twitter spaces, I mentioned that I'd like us to diversify the topics on a fortnightly basis, try and bring in interest from other areas. I've kind of listed a few of the things that interest me and that I think I'd like to get involved in conversations with people about. But if you guys have any specifics, whether it's around Web3 gaming, art, TradFi, or trading, any of those topics where either myself, someone from within the community, or someone within my network will be able to come on and speak. And then in due course, we'll go out and make new friends and invite new people to the conversation and grow our network organically that way. Please reach out to me via DM or just in the normal communication channels, and we'll start putting together a list of potential spaces for the weeks and months to come. And I think, if I've read through my pages correctly, that covers everything that I wanted to cover. Jack, before we open up the floor to these guys, is there anything that you wanted to touch on?
No, I think we've covered quite a great deal today, guys. And if I missed anything at all, do drop the comment right now. I guess also if you're listening in on Spaces, I guess we're going to get ready to bring you on. If you want to come on and make a comment, you're going to raise your hand you got to be on mobile as well. I don't think you can call in on desktop. And as for anybody in the AMA channel, I'm not sure if we covered all the AMA questions. I'll scroll back in a moment and I will cover a few questions in AMA that we may not have covered yet. I'm also watching the YouTube stream for anybody to leave comments there, so just give me a minute.
Looks like Willak ETH is requesting to speak, so let me just see if I can add you on, Will. Okay, Will, all yours.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, sir. Thank you for joining.
Thanks for having me. So I just had a quick question about the token. So I have the first token that was airdropped in a different wallet because I moved. I was using Coinbase wallet and then I moved to a ledger. So it's still in my Coinbase wallet. So would I like the token is, but my incognito's in the ledger? Would I have to move the token to my ledger to receive the multiplier, or would it just
like... So look, the simple answer is that in due course, you're going to want to have your token held in the same wallet as your incognitos. However, you don't need to worry about it because we're going to be gaming this out over the course of several months. You don't need to start moving the stuff from cold storage onto digital wallets in the short term. We will give you plenty of advance notice around how the mechanics of this are going to work, what the distribution will be looking at in terms of wallet ownership of that Icon NFT, et cetera, et cetera. So it's likely that at some stage or another, we'll ask you to put those together, but we're not talking about asking you to do that in the next 10 weeks. So keep hold of it for now, keep it safe, and we will be proactively updating you guys in the Discord before doing anything.
Perfect. Thank you. And thanks for taking this in such like a business approach. I like the vision.
It's my pleasure. I don't have any other setting, unfortunately. I'm just a boring guy, but I appreciate you saying that. So hopefully that answers Will. Is there anyone else who'd like to opine on anything I've said or ask anything different? Okay, so either everyone is too bored.
I will throw in a comment here. One question here from Blast, or a comment. He's asking about activity or creative contests. Maybe there's a better way to do contests beyond just clicking the random prize thing. You're right. You know, I think one of the best fun we've ever had as a community was the Photoshop contest. So I am making a note of this. I do agree. We do need to bring back something akin to that to get some of these contests, like you say, a little more fruitful for the engagement. Let me see. There's another one thing here. Nemo, user by the name of Mew in the AMA here asks, any updates on the Coinbase listing? Well, my man, I will be happy to tell you that now that the collection has been sorted out, by that I mean, of course, the previews are straight, and we're getting a lot of our fundamentals dialed in here. I can assure you that I have a connection at Coinbase NFT, and I'm preparing to, I guess, begin that dialogue. Of course, this is something we have to, still collaborate with Matt and Dynasty on. But no, I can assure you we are in good hands. Now that things are moving along, I think Coinbase listing 2022 is in the cards. All right, Black Tortoise, milestones ranks will, like Nemo, be a multiplier. That's something to think about. Again, as Matt described, we are still in the early days of gaming all of this out. Indeed, something like your rank, like Nemo, yes, it'll probably be proportional to your holding. So that answer question shortly, the answer is probably yes. Mew asked, will be nothing for Nemo? No. We did mention earlier we are looking to reward Nemos in some way. So Nemo holder rewards, Matt said, in about a week, within a week's time, he should have an announcement for you. So stay tuned for that, Nemo holders. Black Tortoise, besides volunteers, do we actually have a paid staff, and what are they responsible for? We do, and Black Tortoise, if you want, I can detail that in a DM or something. Yeah, we do. We do have an artist like Nooks, and There are devs in the background who do administer things. The real disconnect here is, guys, and I've spoken to some of the devs, is that they don't see themselves as community members, or see that community building is part of their job description, right? They're really devs who work in the shadows, and you'd think they'd want to get more directly involved in the community. That is the explanation for why you don't see them, Black Tortoise. We, of course, are trying to change all that. We are bringing, I guess, new blood into the organization, one that we will hopefully see more of around here. Juicy Tacos, sorry I can't be there, and I'll attend next time. All right, that's, I think, it. Did I miss anything else? I'm going to check the YouTube in a moment, and I'll let Matt speak.
Yeah, so just quickly sorry, I don't know the pronunciation either, Mu or Mu, just mentioning about Nemo rewards. I guess the problem is at the moment, we've got to be practical about how we use our funds, right? Everyone wants to see us sweeping the floor regularly. You guys want to talk about potential marketing initiatives beyond the sort of bits and pieces that I've touched on here today. If you think about what it costs to go and buy 5 Incognitos from the floor at the moment, it's 0.25 ETH, right? And then we're charging 5% royalties on that. So we're getting a touch over 0.01 of an ETH. Let's call it $45. And then to go and use those $45 for any kind of meaningful reward to the guy who's bought 5 means that we're actually running at a loss every time a new guy comes and buys 5 Incognitos. So it doesn't make any sense to do that. What we want to do is create a system that encourages people to make meaningful commitments to the project and be rewarded in due course, not just by inflation of the price, but also increasing scarcity of the art and increasing desirability of the project. So that's not to say that we don't very, very much value Nemo holders, as we do every single holder within the Incognito community. It's to reflect the fact that at current floor prices, it's not financially viable to give rewards to everyone who owns a piece of the community. Now, in due course, when our floor's sat at 2 ETH and owning 5 is the equivalent of having 10 ETH invested, and you're talking about someone having $40,000 in effect committed to the project, it becomes much easier to go out and reward everyone, not just Nemo holders, but everyone who's got a piece of the project. So as we evolve over time, so too will our reward structure, and so too will our ability to say thank you to the people who have supported us along the way. But for the time being, we have to work from the top down, not because we don't value every single member of the community, but because from this pure brass tacks of the finances, we have to be sensible about how we spend our money if we're going to get to where we want to be. So it's not that it's nothing for Nemo, it's that I want to reward the guys who have been proactive in getting up to Tuna, and then reward the Nemos and everyone else in due course when the finances of our collection allows us to do so. Hopefully that makes sense.
All right. I might have confused earlier when I was speaking about forthcoming Tuna Rewards. I might have said Nemo. Indeed. Nemo holders, I have you in mind personally as well. We'll try to do something practical for you guys, even if they're small embellishments. Sometimes these things go a long way, guys. That includes, cool little tweaks, I guess, for the server and more. I'll share my ideas with you guys a little later. What else do we have? Matt, please continue.
Actually, I think we're probably drawing to an end, but just as it happens, Itchy's just written something in the Ask Us Anything channel that completely resonates with my view, both on business in general, but finance, Web3 and NFTs. Women in blockchain is hugely, hugely important, right? Because historically, this has been a male-dominated environment. If you look at our holder list, the reality is that we're probably looking at 90% male distribution amongst our current holders. In due course, this industry, in my opinion, and I assume in the opinion of most of our holders, isn't going to be a niche thing. Blockchain, Web3, NFT contracting is going to be, you won't need to use the word NFT, it will just be contract, because all contracts will be carried out via this process. So if we want to embrace the fullness of that market, we need to make efforts as a community and as a project to open it up to female holders. Incognitos can be part of that. I don't disagree with what Itchy's saying there. But what I think we need to do is to reach out to female-led projects as part of our community outreach, as part of our effort to go and build spaces with outside holders and outside projects, and engage meaningfully in a way that allows female holders, both current and future, to see Incognito as a viable option to them from an investment perspective. So I think Itchy's absolutely right. I think he's very well connected to a number of female CEOs within the Web3 and crypto space. I hope that he can put us in touch with those as part of this project. But one of the things you've seen me kick off once or twice about is what we don't want to be doing is being the kind of community that makes sexist jokes in Discord or makes disparaging comments to female holders or to people that jump into the Discord. We're not that community, thankfully, but I do know a number of communities who are like that. What we want to be is the type of community that allows us to build out not just the 50% of the potential target market, but to the whole lot. And I think Itchy's absolutely right. We should do what we can to reach out to that segment.
Incognitos indeed will be, I think, a big part of that. Which, yeah, very excited to embark on that journey. I do know that's, I think, one of the prominent next steps forward for Ducks in the development team. All right. Well,
superb. So I don't think anyone needs to listen to me ramble on for any more than an hour and 20 minutes. That's probably enough of anyone's time for one session. But what I will do is just jump back onto the Discord and answer any questions that we've missed as they come up for the next 20 minutes or so. I'll be completely transparent. I was planning on doing a quick sweep, but as I speak, yeah, it's like 180 GUI for gas. So I'd rather buy 15 icons tomorrow than 10 tonight. But the bottom line is we are still sweeping. We will continue to sweep. We will add royalties as we go. And I expect us to get meaningful reduction of supply over the coming weeks and months. But like I said, I'm not going to waste community money by spending it on gas when we want to spend it on icons. So I had hoped to sign off with a big bang and say, look how exciting this is that I'm going to go and take us from 120 burned icons to 140. But instead, we will keep our powder dry and wait for London gas rates to be preferable in the morning. And I will hop onto the Discord now with Jack and answer any questions you guys might have that we missed in voice.
All right, well said. We will begin to wind it down right here. Indeed, when gas is more favorable, the sweep will happen. I was looking forward to it maybe tonight, but I guess we'll see. If you, of course, missed any part of this Twitter Space event, or you missed the whole thing, guess what? We caught the whole stream here on YouTube. The video on demand replay will be available right after I wrap up the stream. So I'll also be, I think, doing timestamps. Yeah, I'll do my best efforts to timestamp today's video, make it easier for you guys to kind of reference today's discussion. As Justo said in the AMA section here, could we maybe also make like a bullet point write-up? The timestamps along with, I'm sure, coming write-ups from Matt will cover that. All right. Matt, my hat's off to you again. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your help as ever, sir, and thank you to all the attendees. We will be in touch to set up the next one.
Absolutely. Everyone have yourselves a great night. We'll see you next time.
Cheers, guys.